everybody, and welcome to the Rise Summit. I am Nuna Isima, your host, and today I am so delighted to have Ellison J. K with us. Ellison, for more than 25 years, has practiced as mind-body energy healer, founding the vibrational upgrade system and working in yoga, meditation, qigong, energy medicine, mind-body fitness, longevity, and holistic health with a specialization in the chakra system. Considered one of the leading experts in her field, she has taught the world and has written 3 books: the award-winning What If There Is Nothing Wrong?, Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, Easing Humanity's Evolutionary Transition, Reasonable Dragons, How to Activate the Field of Possibilities Where Logical Magic is the New Normal, and her latest masterpiece, The Dragon Master Creatics, Conversations with a Female Spiritual Teacher for These New Times. I am so excited for our conversation today. Welcome, Ellison.
Welcome to me and hello to, thank you. I'm so excited. Can't even speak clearly, apparently.
Yeah, so let's dive to it. I would love to ask you, how did you ended up doing what you're doing? What brought you into this field? I'm sure you have an interesting backstory.
I actually have always been doing this work. It was a matter of learning how to work with my gift and bring it forward more and give it the space and then get the necessary training and cultivation. But it's not caused by any crisis or anything like that. It's just natural. And it's been an aspect of like learning how to allow that, you know. I mean, especially I have a nickname as a maverick, and of some of the nicknames my masterminders and vibrational upgrade practitioners have named me as they work with me for a while. And maverick is definitely one of them. I mean, learning how to give myself, I seem to be talking about this because it's out there in the audience, learning how to not need approval for what I was choosing and doing, and honoring my guidance no matter what others wanted, without it necessarily feeling sticky to others, but just it being honoring my own voice and connection and guidance. So yeah, it's caused me to like leave my family for a decade at a time and move over to Asia to study subtle energy and energy medicine. It's caused me to not make choices that my father can make sense out of, or that my mother would prefer I be not making, and living in a bedroom community now where there's like people around me not living life in a lifestyle the way I am. I have a lot of courage. People have told me I have cojones of steel. So I find that courage is needed to follow one's intuitive guidance. And without it, you just I see my clients and students over the years just lose so much time and self-doubt.
Yeah, I love that you bring it, because it's really important to transmit that message that when you have a calling, you don't need permission, not from your mom and not from your dad, not from your community, to do your sacred work, that it is your path, it's calling you, and one does need courage to pursue it, right?
Yeah, especially like being able to self-affirm instead of, because I've always known through college and afterwards to look for a community. I went to a school where the first book from a Westerner on mindfulness came out. John Kabat-Zinn went to my university. I knew to seek out community, but I also knew not to look for the affirmations outside of myself, that I had to be self-affirming. And That's another aspect too, because I see so many people stop themselves by the question of, if I actually choose this big thing to follow my path, who will I lose? What will I have to give up? Who and what will I have to leave behind? Paralyzing them as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell me, what is the vibrational upgrade? I would love to hear more about it.
So it's a combination of the 5 different energy medicine modalities I learned, kind of topped off with Qigong that I learned over in Taiwan and in Thailand when I was on breaks, with the yoga and meditation teacher background where I was certified in India. And so one half is using energy medicine to clear out people's unconscious and subconscious blockages that correlate to the relevant chakra. And the other half is applied mindfulness. So it's not the kind of mindfulness where if you're eating like a juicy peach, you notice the juice dripping down your chin and you're really present. I don't mean that kind of mindfulness. I consider that more a beginner's mindfulness. I mean, instead, permanent behavioral change. I have certification as a specialist in permanent behavioral change. So I'm not going for like small shifts. I'm going for permanent behavioral change. And I understand that from my background as a meditation teacher. We have neurological pathways that get formed from habitual thought patterns. So when there's a clearing done on somebody, like I need the approval of others in order to honor my intuition, and I run that clearing on them, yeah, it gets loosened up with in the relevant chakras. And then that unconscious belief, I need the approval of others in order to honor in order to feel good or comfortable, so they can not look for the approval of others and then follow their own path. Once that blocked consciousness is cleared, and then it becomes fresh, vital life force energy at the front of the mind, consciousness. So when they're making a choice now, they have more space. There's not the automated trigger or mind-body connection. So they don't have to go down that path of the habituated unconscious behavior or choices, but they need retraining to come out of that momentum and to create a new neurological path based on new thoughts like, oh, so it's okay for me to choose this, even though I know my husband isn't going to like this. And then them having the necessary clearings and activations to boost their courage, so then they do actually choose something that will lead to possibly not having the approval of others. So it's like, it's not like done all at once. The people don't change all at once, obviously, but it seems to me the vibrational upgrade system is really well honed to help people come out of the more nuanced places of where they're really holding themselves back from being the most aligned, vibrant, thriving version of themselves, and giving them the tools to actually not just feel shifted and not know how to proceed to have a different life or any different possibilities within which to make different choices, but how to actually then make those different choices to then actually create that different life that they are saying they want, and that their higher self is telling me that they want, and they're maybe blocked to even hearing that that's what's coming through. And so in the beginning, I may intuit for them, this is what I hear your higher self saying. As they develop the musculature or the training wheels, eventually I take the training wheels off, right? So the person's then in that new space of being able to be awake and conscious of their choices. And because like at least 85 to 90% of our choices we're making every day are at the unconscious and subconscious level. We're making choices of what we do and don't do, who we listen to and don't listen to, what we eat and don't eat, what exercises we do and don't do, by the voices we can't even hear, the thoughts we can't even hear. So if we want to change, we want to clear out all of that place where we're making our choices from, to have less and less of that locked down at an unconscious, meaning we can't hear it, it's not conscious, or subconscious, meaning it's under the conscious mind, we can't hear it, to a more conscious level, so we then can make more conscious choices. So that's the system.
Right, right. and touching on that need for approval, right? That's very primal. And where do you think that comes from? So, so ingrained in our society.
Do you remember? That's a great question. Where my mind goes to first is, it's interesting because when I was in the traditional tea houses in Taiwan and I was going for my PhD, writing my dissertation, my first book, What If There's Nothing Wrong, is the outcome of that. And I found myself being taken back into the history of the West to understand how we ended up being so closed down to the holistic and being so closed down to energy and consciousness, because I was living in the half of the other hemisphere where energy is honored even more than the physical. So where I go to is a lot like the same that I experienced writing What If There's Nothing Wrong. Do you remember, like in France, especially, not the guillotine, but when the face would be in that wooden thing and the hands would be there too, and people would throw bad fruit or bad veggies at the face, and the person would just have to sit there. So that ostracization used to be used as a tool for shame, and you don't want to engage in that behavior because then you'll be treated like this. You'll become an outcast. Before there was law and order and police. And then, I mean, they used to in England hang people from a high point, and the crowds used to come and watch and cheer and even buy refreshments while watching people get hung as a means of maintaining law and order. So it seems like that is an old tool, shame. And you don't want to stand out because then look what could happen. That's deeply subconscious in the collective psyche. But then also the sense of torture being accompanied with ostracization, the sense of torture being accompanied with if I stand out, if I'm all alone, if I'm solo. So there's some kind of unconsciousness around that trauma collectively, it feels like. But it also just feels good to get approval, right? Like our dogs love approval, their tails wag more. But I feel like what I just did, for example, was I intertwined approval with love, because dogs are unconditionally loving, right? So maybe it's actually the tails are wagging and they're expressing their love and joy at having us come home. You could infer that's also approval that I'm home. Thank you for wagging your tail and showing your pleasure that I'm home. But it's possible that I also feel like part of what sticks people in the need for approval is that it is misconstrued with love. Like I can love someone and not approve of a choice they're making. I just did it earlier today.
Yeah, and
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, and it's a big lesson, right? Especially now when there's so much division between ideas and opinions and decisions to make, in the times that we live in, and the ability to love somebody without enforcing my beliefs on them and respecting their choices for what they do is a big one, right? I feel that there's such a drift between family members even at these times, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to all sorts of decisions, pro-vaccination, anti-vaccination, pro-masks, anti-masks, all those. Yeah, so it's really a big one to be able to love somebody and agree to disagree.
Yeah, we used to do that.
Right.
We used to do that more readily, even in politics. I mean, in democracy, debate is inherent, right? So it seems to me this is a healing crisis. You know how the fever peaks before it breaks? So the way the body, mind, body, spirit system seems to let go of a tumor or a chronic pain or a block is sometimes, or like I consider one block, it's its own thing, but usually it's like a ball of yarn where it's an entangled family of beliefs. Mm-hmm. So one block doesn't usually stand alone. It's with a bunch of other ones. It's all a big ball of yarn of entanglement that's behind a core behavioral pattern we want to change. And I feel like when I've peeled off enough layers and I'm more towards the core, people's system, mine included, let go in a way that sometimes the pendulum swings into an intense direction. The intensity increases because the body is doing what it does. It's burning it up in order to burn it out. Homeopathic medicine is much the same with the venom of the snake in the actual antidote. So it can seem like this is getting more intense as we're clearing something. At a collective level, unity is part of the new era. The opposite of that's polarization. If we're moving out of the time of polarity, like one of the examples is we're so conditioned to believe in and function from either or rather than both and. And not even of itself, playing with that in a moment to moment basis in your day is a way to start bringing yourself out of the conditioning for polarity and more into the energetics of the new era where it's inclusivity and unity. So I don't view, yeah, it's hopeful. And it doesn't seem like I'm making it up just to feel good. It's the nature of, it's like a universal law that fever peaking before it breaks. In unity, our hearts, if you look around, more people are open, like are doing things like what we're doing right now. There's more yoga studios, there's more meditation studios. Before COVID, before the stress of COVID, we're in the spiritual awakening times. You know, and if we're awakening spiritually, the heart is a part of that. In the Chinese and yogic culture, the word Shen is the Chinese word for heart, but it's also the Chinese word for spirit. Both the Chinese and the yogic cultures believe that the spirit resides in the heart. And in there, everything is it's all one. So I'm not making it up to have us all feel better, that maybe there's more polarity right now because we're moving into unity. It's based on observation of multiple universal laws. Nonetheless, it's nice because it does feel good. But I mean, that's part of the subtitle to my second book, Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Our Bliss, or for Your Bliss, because our systems are designed for health and thriving and bliss. I remember I went in as a psych major into college for my first major, and 3 semesters in, I was like, you're not teaching me how to be the most thriving, happiest, joyous, adventurous person I can possibly be, or how I can help others do that. You're focused on like application to industrial management, capitalism, in the hard wiring. There's nothing here in focusing on telling the same story over and over again through talk therapy and psychoanalysis. You're not answering the question of how do I be the happiest in mind, body, and spirit in this gift of life I've been given. And so I've been looking at the holistic model ever since. And I conditioning that you can see implied in my first book's title, What If There's Nothing Wrong, is if you don't work with the mind, its natural presumption is this is a problem, I must fix it, particularly in the West, particularly in America, to be problem focused and being a fixer. It's a good thing. It's valued in our society more than like, you're kind, that's excellent. Let's give you a tax credit because of it. You know, well, we do that. We do that with charitable donations. Let me correct myself there. But then that can get misconstrued, right? Like, am I only doing this donation so that I can get the financial benefit? You know, so what I'm saying is that kindness is a good value to have, as opposed to like, I can accomplish so many things at once because I'm so busy and I'm so productive, or my mind is great at figuring out how to fix problems, because then that leads to looking for problems to fix. Right. Like attracting like, you know.
And this is very much the masculine paradigm, right? The masculine, you know.
God bless it.
God bless it. And we all need it, and it's got its place. And I'm all for that collaboration, cooperation, and balance, right? Yeah, we need to really find that within us before we can find that outside of us. And it definitely has its space. But you know, often when a woman talks to a man and she shares her story, she shares it from a place, listen to me, I've got something to share, just so I can offload it from my chest and I can have an ear to listen. And the man will sit there and, how can I fix it? How can I fix it? Right? So it's good to be aware that it's got its place. It's necessary. Sometimes there are problems to be fixed, but not everything is a problem to be fixed.
But I'll tell you what, I love that aspect of the masculine, because I don't want to get into a mechanical thing and learn how to how it's working and fix it. I love that men build machines that do stuff that make my life easier. I dig that. As a sweeping generalization that it's never women doing it, but seriously, I love that aspect of the masculine. But I love what you just said too, because about it balancing within each of us, where it's not even genderized, it's just the yang and the yin, and they just need to be in more balance before we'll see more of it outside of ourselves. Heck yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And so I love how you started from the Western, right? You went to study medicine, and then you took it into you widen your horizons. You realize that there's more to what you have studied, perhaps in university, and you went and you accomplished more studies, and you brought in that integration with the East, which is so necessary, especially now.
Yeah, I feel like I was a detective, or like Hansel and Gretel following breadcrumbs. It was almost like that same sense I had walking in the woods growing up with my older brother and feeling connected to everything, or the journal writing I did in my teens, connecting to my higher self and the voice of the divine through me. And then meditating by the time I was 19, like it just seemed like I was allowing that voice to speak through me and guide me. And it was the feminine. I mean, it was listening to the intuition to help me take the appropriate actions. Now there's the yang. So it felt like there was some bigger like plan going on. And if I just got the hell out of the way and listened, it knew what to do. and yeah, so just following that voice guided me to piece this all together. I did ask before I moved to Asia, frankly. I was working on a session on a woman who had been getting great results. We were both really pleased. It was my part-time gig next to my classroom teaching, or my second revenue stream. And yet at the same time, I was like, how can I get even more robust results for my clients? And within 2 months, I was moving to Asia to teach at the international school level instead of in the public school system. So yeah, it's just a phenomenal existence to, I like at age, late teens or early 20s, I think there were a couple of times when I didn't listen to my intuition and knowingly said, I don't want to. And it sucked. So I learned early on, like, you really mess stuff up, dude, when you don't listen to that voice and do what it says. I don't know that I used dude then, but yeah. So allowing for that guidance and following it, it's very feminine, and it's very much, in that first book, again, I'm going to refer to it because I was really asking, like, how did we become so mind dominant in the West? In my What If There's Nothing Wrong book. And I feel like I was being led back to when the masculine paradigm came in with the church and the state after medieval times, after Renaissance, in the Age of Reason, and then just came in with order, as if to suppress the wildness that had just been going on from all the centuries before of superstition. Sure, like witch hunts, like spinning out people using it just to get a neighbor they didn't like out of the way. But still, that the wildness that happens when we listen to our intuition, the unpredictability that if we follow an intuitive choice, like my parents weren't expecting me to move to the other side of the planet, nor were my local friends. And they were quite hurt, frankly, when I chose to uproot myself away from them. So, I mean, there's a sense of control within the mind that we don't have when we go in and listen to the guidance of the yin, the intuition. And I feel like it's tame. There was a sense of control that came in that wanted to tame down that wildness. And we've been living in that paradigm in the West for centuries now, and people are just crying out for more life.
I'm so with you on that one. I'm completely resonating. And yeah, we have been in the patriarchal times for thousands of years now. And that suppression and oppression of the feminine, we paying the price of it, right? I mean, not to say it's right or wrong, it's there, so it's part of evolution, and I'm sure that, you know, we will swing like a pendulum, you know, from one extreme to maybe to the other and to the middle. But it's really about allowing that wildness of the feminine to come online. And the way I love to see it, or the way I see it in my perception, is that, you know, the now is that middle point between time and space. And I see time as the masculine energy because it's linear and it's got, you know, a certain, you can measure it, and it's progressive, and it's, you know, directing and planning. And the space is, you know, that unknown, unpredictable, wild energy, which is the feminine. And the meeting between the two is the now. So this is a nice analogy that I like to use.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The present moment, it's a present, it's a gift. You know, let me ask you this though. What do you make of the fact that time can be perceived differently? I don't consider, because I've been playing with this for a while now. With what you just said, totally dig it, right? The spaciousness is the feminine, that like the place we go when we're doing like the intuitive work, the receiving, the listening, the seeding, all of that's in that spaciousness, and it's needed for, so it seems like the yin qualities require the spaciousness, and the yang qualities of that, what you said, the linear can be chopped up and measured. But what do we do with, so if the meeting point is the now, work with me on this, please, because I'm actually wanting to get to a new place with it. Thank you. If the meeting place is the now of space and time, the yang, the yin and the yang, space, yin, time, yang, but we can change time from our perception of I'm having fun, so it's speeding up. I'm bored, so it's going slower. How come, to me, that means it's a projection. That means we're affected. Time is neutral, like money. It's a neutral thing, and our projection makes it what it comes across as. Like either we love money, money loves us. We don't think, if I love money, I'm one of those types of people who's not spiritual but greedy, so let me reject money, so I'm more spiritual. Instead, we invite money in and it comes. The same with time. Like if I'm a neutral projection and I just allow, if I have no projection, I just allow time to be what it is, does it go, it just is that spaciousness. It's the confluence, like you mentioned. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So the way I see it is that time can be, we can tap into different dimensions of future and past, right? So it might not be that meeting point of the now, but we can definitely, and perhaps we even living in some dimension in a zone of no time where we are.
Yeah, that's, I think, yeah, you think?
Yeah, that's a possibility, and it's definitely something that can come up in a ceremonial space, right? Where you tap into parts of your younger self or your older self, and you can clearly see or live it as it is happening. So I think that we exist in this meeting point if we manage to be present, right? So if we're not,
Yeah.
we a bit off.
Yeah, big if.
Yeah, but if we are here, then we can experience the gift of the present moment fully embodied in the now. And then we almost experience no time because we're so present. But at the same time, we can travel along that linear line. So we're not bound to only the now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was great. So it's our choice.
It's our
how
choice.
we want to use time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's so little we really understand in this dimension, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I went the other day, I took my girls to the planetarium and we watched, you know, this huge dome and very high resolution pixels and music. It was phenomenal. And you know, they were talking about the universe and the planets and giving a little bit of reference to the Earth and the other planets. And we can't even comprehend infinity.
Yeah.
It's not something
Yeah.
we, in our mind, we can understand. And when I saw that, I was completely blown away. So little we actually do know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In this field of universal laws and metaphysics, it's so compelling. Like the more we learn of the mystical, the more we want to learn. And the more I know I've seen, the more there is to learn. You know, I mean, if you just keep the veil down and you don't ever look in, dun, 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 you know, it's like almost easier than if you start and wow, you know, it's just so much to explore. I love that you brought up the planetarium though, because I feel like I had this experience. Part of what I do when I train my people in the mastermind who become vibrational upgrade practitioners, they meet me in the UK and I take them on retreat to different sacred sites and stone circles. And depending on their level, we go to more and more sites, while I'm also attuning them in a certain way and training them in how to flow energy first to themselves and then to others and then on the planet. So I found like after I did a certain round of the 4 different levels of trainees to create more vibrational upgrade practitioners, and then I took one of them, we went to more stone circles throughout Scotland and Ireland. Man, like I had to ask to have some of what I had accessed closed down because I felt like, in all frankness, and I came out, I feel a little bit edgy about saying it. I talk about it in my most recent book, The Dragon Master Creatrix, but it was like there had to be some connection between the stone circles and UFOs or ETs, because when I was back, it usually takes me a couple of months to integrate everything that I get myself from giving what I'm giving and receiving what I'm receiving at the sites and too. But I had to actually ask for the sense of the galactic that I had connected with to close down a little bit more so that I could go about my day to day with more presence. So there's something, yeah, there's something about it, and we're becoming more galactic now, right? Like more and more people are tuning into the moon cycles and the eclipses. I mean, they're even covering it on local news where they wouldn't before. So I know, and NASA is talking more about like different constellations and new planets are getting discovered. So I feel like, well, we can point to other causes. I know that it seems like part of this vibrational upgrade and spiritual awakening time is that galactic awakening. But how to use it, but my approach is always like, okay, great. Like even the example I just gave about myself, okay, great, I can connect in with some galactic places that I wasn't aware of before, but how is that going to help me thrive more in my body here on planet Earth as a bridge between heaven and earth and help others do the same? So I tend to have that cutoff point where like, okay, like even when I'm working with a client and past life info comes up, I stop before I go in too far into the story just to give information to entertain the mind. And instead I take out, okay, this is related to the thing that you want cleared, and then stop and then clear. So there's like a lack of indulgence on my part. I could probably be really annoying. Like I'm pretty, like I could just see and then clear. Like and I love to laugh and play for sure. I'm correcting myself on that, but I probably could be pretty annoying because I like don't entertain the mind a lot. Like I don't indulge it. I help people come out of that because I think our society lives at such a mind indulgent level. Like how you access all this mystical stuff is not by indulging the mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, the mind is, or the story that we keep saying to ourselves is very subjective, right? It's not objective at all. And it's subjective to our interpretation of it, the lenses we have, you know, it goes through our belief system. Yeah, so I mean, the story is, you clear it, that's great, that's that's the best that can happen, right? Because when we let go of that story, that identification, we can actually open up to the energy to move through us and
Yes.
embody that energy, right? And be that vessel between earth and you know, the higher intelligence, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that I love how you said that, because there's like a 12 commandments in the Vibrational Upgrade Practitioner's Manual. And the first one is do not ever project. Because in the second one is, I think, do not ever give advice. Because, I mean, as an energy medicine practitioner, you're in such a role where people are expecting advice, but that's not what we do. We intuit. We go into the higher, beyond our mind. And I find like so many of the energy medicine modalities, I remember when I was getting trained in one of them at the beginner level, we were practicing different people, 5 practice sessions a day, weekend long training. Each person, as they were supposed to go in and dig and intuit something about me, was projecting. It wasn't, it was like they were going to the most reliable place of what people usually go to in intuitive readings. Are you missing somebody, for example? And none of them were hit, none of them were right, is what I'm saying. And it was phenomenal for me to experience that. And I say this not obviously from a place of ego, but I had just come back from the 10 years in Asia. I had done a whole lot of purification on my own conscience for the previous 20 years. And so I was able to just clearly see. And so even in Taiwan, when I was living there and interacting with exorbitant cultural differences, and when I lived in Istanbul too, and traveling in Bali or Thailand or India, massive cultural differences. So what I would say, what I came to say is, I don't need to be right. I need to have accurate perception. Meaning, am I understanding you from your whole lens with my lens accurately? You know, and so I just really see how much we're these like 35 millimeter projectors on top of necks, just seeing what we expect to see. And when we purify it or clear it, it's what you said, the divine life force, or you use different wording, but then the energy can flow through us. And then that helps everything, including more courage to follow your intuition, including hearing more intuitive guidance, including a thriving, vibrant, healthy body, including great levels of creativity, so much so you can barely keep up with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so thank you for doing the work, right? It's so needed, and I really honor you for that.
Thank you.
And I know that you
Thank
have
a book behind over your shoulder. I love what you're doing.
Rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise.
Indeed.
And it's really
Indeed.
time to let go of that story and to embody our greatness. You know, I really a true believer that we all have our zone of genius. Nobody is excluded. Nobody. We all have our gifts. We are here for a very good reason. And a lot of us have forgotten along the way because we were born into patriarchal times, because trauma is so predominant in our society and have been running in so many generations that we kind of normalize it. We don't even see it for what it is. And once we step out of that, once we see it for what it is, and we do the work to clear, there's nothing to learn, there's nothing to acquire. We have everything inside of us that we already need. It's there. It's really to clear the muck that stains it, and what is in our way, so we can tap back into that divinity that we all have inside. And the world, especially now, is calling for you and you and you, for everyone to step up and to embody your greatness and bring that online and share it with all of us, so we can move to the next level. Together, exactly. Because when I rise, we rise, right? And especially women, I found that once they tapped into something that helps them and they managed to transform something, or they excited about something they discovered, they are the first ones that run and share it with everyone else.
Yeah.
right? That's the nature of women. And so, you know, I like to quote the Dalai Lama. I quoted him in my book. The world will be saved by the Western woman. And, you know, he said that I believe that, you know, Eastern woman is powerful as the Western. But, you know, yeah, it's the woman that will carry the torch of transformation, because we are closer to creation, right? We are the transmitters of life. We have the equipment to bring life into the physical, and this is a huge gift. And so it's time to bring that in everything we do, right? In our creations.
You're saying parts of each of my books right now. I'm just sitting here like grateful to have another voice saying what I've been saying for years. Really, I quoted that same quote. It is the Western woman who will change the world, the Dalai Lama. I think in my first book, if not my second, and everything else you just said in one form or another, I've said in my books. I feel like it's because we're freer. We are, it's societally wise, able to step out more. The Chinese woman, the Indian woman, the Sri Lankan woman, maybe not the Thai woman, but there's still so much more that they have to fight against to be a voice. I mean, the Taiwanese woman, we have a president in Taiwan now that's female, which is great. Malaysia has had female prime ministers, whereas in the United States, we've never had a female president. So they're not quite so far behind in some of the countries, but there's the Dalai Lama sitting from his perspective in Tibet saying that about the Western woman. I listened. We have certain freedom that they just don't have with which to express ourselves in our societies. We're not collective, we're individual. Some of that keeps them fitting in rather than easily speaking out. So I believe that those are some of the reasons why he said that. But yeah, the Western woman, I love the idea though of our men. I love seeing so many of the conscious men. I love the fact that the Huggies diapers now have a man on the cover of the diaper package. I love that our men are becoming so much more conscious and supportive. I love that there's sometimes in a couple men who are doing this spiritual awakening stuff and the women who are not. I love that it's men that are just so aware of, there's so many more men that are so aware of their role in supporting the divine feminine, and that the divine masculine supports the divine feminine and trusts the divine feminine while not giving away their own inner authority. Our men are just waking up left and right too. But a woman, it's funny because on my fridge, I have a magnet. Behind every successful woman is herself. My mother gave that to me. And that used to be the old way. But I feel like with the new divine masculine, what's becoming true is behind every successful woman is a divine masculine man. Isn't that a shift?
It's a big shift, and I saw with you on that. First of all, I see men awakening, and that warms my heart. It's beautiful. And what I see also is that in conscious relationship, right, where there's no overpowering, the woman, or even as it used to be before the patriarchal times, the woman used to envision together. They used to gather during the moon time and envision what the village needs, what needs to happen. And when they communicated that to the men in, you know, with love and with
I love how you said that. Love.
Then men are so eager to be in service. They're so eager to go for it and make it happen. And I think this is really a beautiful collaboration where it's not overpowering. It's just going together towards a mutual vision that is for the better of all, right? So yeah, I think that men love to be in service of the feminine when there is that love relationship, when it's not overpowering, when they haven't just submitted their balls, so to say, right? Because that's also happening where they just give their balls to their woman in their life, and that is emasculating, right?
Yes, the non-divine feminine, the passive-aggressive, manipulative, non-divine feminine. Yeah.
Right. But when it's the divine feminine and the divine masculine come together,
yummy. Oh, some of that, please. Yes, more.
Yeah. Yeah, so unfortunately, our time is coming to an end, and I want to wrap it up. And I know that you have an amazing gift to share with the
Yeah, thank
audience.
you. I totally forgot
So,
about that. I'm so excited. All right, so this is not a typical, for those of you on my list who are following me, this is not a typical free gift that I give away on summits. And for all of you listening, this was an hour-long clearing and activation recording of a long list. You can go to the page and see the long list of typical ways women stop themselves from what we've been talking about. I can't, I don't deserve to be free. I'm afraid to listen to my intuition, like so much of what we've been talking about. But the bottom line focus is opening up our capacity to receive, so that you're not the multitasking supermom, and so that you do allow yourself to receive your intuition, so that you do allow yourself to engage in self-nurturance and self-care that gives you that expansive space, so that you can live in more of a balanced yin yang, divine masculine, divine feminine balance, and live out more your, I'm going to call it divine rising, as we all rise together. It's a really fun free gift. I'm happy to give it.
that sounds amazing. So go ahead and download it. You'll find the link on this page, and enjoy it. It's one more tool that is so graciously given to you for your rise. So thank you so much, Ellison. It was such a pleasure, such a pleasure.
Thank you. I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, and so until the next time, ciao.